Hi, good day, folks. This is Wade's World. Welcome once again. Please like, subscribe, and share this video. And if you want, I'd love you to be able to comment on it. We're going to continue with part 2 of the taking, well, I called it the taking of South Africa 1, 2, 3. This is part 2, of course. It's supposed to provide one with a reasonably in-depth analysis and understanding of Afrikaner history and the impact it has on South Africa, because Afrikaner history arguably is intimately tied in with the history of South Africa. So I'm going to give a few examples following on from part 1. I'm going to start with the Battle of Blood River, which happened on the 16th of December 1838, where the Afrikaners supposedly defeated 30,000 Zulu warriors by their own account. Now, to my mind, it took the superior firepower of the British Army more than 40 years later to defeat the Zulus, but not before the Zulus inflicted a crushing blow on them in the Battle of Rorke's Drift on the 22nd of January 1879, an achievement the Afrikaners were unable to match, in my view, in two bitter conflicts with the British. A commentary on their beloved Afrikaans. Afrikaans, by all accounts, was first developed by the Khoi as a means to communicate across cultures with seafarers from earlier than 1595. So by 1860, the Cape Malay community of the Boerkaap established the first Afrikaner school. And in 1866, Arnaldus Pannevis, a Dutch teacher from Paarl, realized that it was far removed from Dutch and called it Afrikaans for the first time. In essence, Afrikaans is a Creole language of Dutch, Arabic, Cape Malay, English, German, Khoi, and African languages appropriated by the Afrikaners in 1875 in Paarl, when they started the GRA, or otherwise known as Genootskap van Regte Afrikaners, Society of Real Afrikaners newspaper, followed by Die Patriot, which is the Patriot newspaper in 1876. That was to claim Afrikaans as the Burger Afrikaans, or the citizens Afrikaans language, and set out its own lexicography, syntax, morphology, and language rules. So at best, they admittedly contributed to the expansion and growth of Afrikaans as a medium of instruction, but it wasn't by far their creation at all. In a sense, it's kind of called Columbizing. On the so-called Boerenkos, well, actually, colored Malay cuisine became the white women who were the primary estate holders, read madams, and colored women were employed both as cooks and supervisors of the Afrikaner households. But they also were called secondary wives, often doubling up as wet nurses for the madam's young children. So you can argue that that's where Boer cuisine comes from. On Boerewors and biltong, it was in fact the English that first introduced sausage into South Africa and beef jerky for the troops, and that's where Boerewors and biltong comes from. On the obsession with rugby, the sport wasn't by any means invented by the Afrikaner, but by the English, but they claim it as their own. On the Great Trek, contrary to historical belief, many trekkers were criminals, delinquents running away from debts, husbands abandoning their wives and children, and seeking a better life elsewhere. In other words, not all of these men were valiant, brave pathfinders and trailblazers, as is often depicted in South African history books. On the Anglo-Boer Wars, these wars and its atrocities committed against the Afrikaner people were cynically used by the Afrikaner establishment to generate a sense of unity and purpose amongst the ordinary Afrikaner, even though only 36,000 were killed in active duty and roughly about 100,000 perished in the concentration camps. Juxtapose this with the deaths of scores of black and colored people in the same wars, and later the slow-motion genocide against the black citizens of South Africa before and during apartheid, a system of white supremacy and racism later defined by the United Nations in the 1973 as crimes against humanity. At the turn of the 19th century, perhaps the most successful farmers, in fact, were black and colored people, but it was the Lands Act of 1913 that put pay to their skills, ambitions, and indeed their land. The fact is that the Afrikaner farmers have a rich history of being subsidized by the National Party government because of their historical allegiance to the party and their value and reliability as a faithful voting bloc, and as late as 1991-1992 received in the order of 3.5 billion rands in soft loans from the outgoing de Klerk regime. Only 5% of today's farms, by the way, are commercially viable and are profitable as businesses. This, of course, leaves the outstanding metaphysical question, or shall we say existential reality, of our small group of immigrants from Europe who became African by their own choice, experienced persecution, alienation by the British, and the utter devastation and atrocities of wars and the brutality of their concentration camps that clearly left an indelible mental scar on their psyche, could willingly subject their fellow black people, the indigenous people of South Africa, to the same unearned and undeserved punishment and the bigger systemic atrocities of apartheid. A system that, together with the explicit consent and active participation of the mainstream media, cleverly hid the brutalization of millions from the world and negatively affected us in all areas of human development and normal human endeavors. Today, South Africa is still haunted by the spectre of apartheid's legacy, the denialism by the Afrikaner folk, and the ingrained resistance for the call of a national apology and a program of fair financial reparations and a just restitution of land for what is essentially a heinous system of crimes which included state-sanctioned larceny perpetrated against the innocent people. In the words of the United Nations Convention on Apartheid of 1973, let me repeat, where it was again declared a crime against humanity. In my words, this is at once, it makes it indistinguishable, I beg your pardon, from all other types of genocide. Thank you very much. Just remember, join me next week for Wade's World, where I shall be discussing other aspects of South African history. I want to say that I got my information, the credits, one is from the O'Malley Archives, The White Tribe of Africa in 1987, written by David Harrison, The Solution of 1986 by Leon Lowe and Francis Kendall, and now Europe Underdeveloped Africa, the 1972 seminal work by Walter Rodney in South African History Online, and of course the UIA Encyclopedia of World Problems and Human Potential. Please join me next week. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a good one. Thank you very, very much. Cheers, folks.